Chapter 1-1. Morning comes. The sun is just showing over the horizon. The roosters begin to sing, calling everyone to get up. The door of a small wooden shed opens. A young guy with black hair comes out on the street. He scares the roosters with his appearance. The guy yawns sweetly and stretches, then rubs his eyes sleepily. He opens his eyes, and a smile appears on his face. He mentally declares, "It's time to start." The guy takes a broom and starts taking revenge by scaring off the roosters. The guy's name is Young Kai. He is a disciple in the Sky Tower Pavilion. He started training at this place 2 years ago, but he was only able to reach the 3rd stage of body tempering. This is a very mediocre level, so the other disciples laughed behind his back, saying that spending 3 years to reach the 3rd stage of body tempering wasn't normal, but even mediocre. Yang Kai notes that the other apprentice brothers who entered the pavilion at the same time as him have long since passed this stage and are heading towards their future achievement. The hero had no choice but to do all the dirty work in the sect, continuing to train. The Heavenly Pavilion is a sect with a very distinct feature, which is the intensity of competition between disciples. In this place, power is everything. The principles are very simple. Take it away or it will be taken away from you. This law of the jungle has been around for a long time. If in other sects the foundation is built on friendship and relationships of students, then here everything is different. If you want to ascend, you will literally need to climb a ladder made up of your fellow human beings. The Sky Tower has a rule: students who are not yet 14 years old, regardless of their background, are sent for a 3-year internship. In these 3 years, everything is paid for by the sect, and all you have to do is practice. If you can complete your body tempering within these 3 years, then you will be taken to a famous sect with strong masters who will take you as a disciple, but of course, you can also practice alone if you wish. This is one of the special features of this pavilion. However, those who fail the test will either be forced to leave the sect or become apprentice helpers. The Sky Tower Pavilion consists of more than 3,000 disciples, while the apprentice assistants can be counted on one's fingers. Comfort is not guaranteed. Even if you miss a meal or it's too cold, no one will care. They've already tried to evict him. Obviously, the hero does not want to allow such a development of events. Young Kai realizes that they only lived for a couple of decades. The guy believes that if the choice has already been made, then you need to stick to it. Swerving halfway is ridiculous. While the hero went about his business, the other students gradually started to wake up. Several of them decided to visit him. Several guys approach the hero. One of them notices Young Kai. From their faces, it becomes clear that nothing good can be expected. They surround the guy from all sides. Everyone is determined to show the guy his place in the world, pointing out that he is a student assistant, and that he still remains at the 3rd level of body hardening. It turns out that 5 days have passed since the test, and today there will be another one. One of the guys is dissatisfied with the actions of his comrades. He points out that it's not fair for Young Kai to fight alone against so many opponents. Then the leader of the group notices that no one is keeping a protector here. The hero at this time gets down on his knees, taking a pose for meditation. This makes the students laugh. Young Kai meditates, ignoring everyone present who taunts him at this time. Some of the kids start whispering. Some do not understand why Young Kai is sitting, while others explain to him that he is meditating. 2 men step forward. One of them expresses his opinions, thinking that the guy should stop doing nonsense and let them beat him up. In that case, they would both save themselves some time. The student also notices that the guy will definitely lose, because it is only at the 3rd level of body tempering. The second talker supports his friend, noting that they are different from him, so the faster this fight ends, the faster they will be able to return to their training. The hero ignores them, plunging deeper and deeper into meditation. A bird sitting on a tree notices how energy flows around the guy's body. This scares her, causing her to fall off the branch. The bell begins to ring. It's ringing all around. So when the bell rings 9 times and the sun rises in the east, then a new day will come. Young Kai's eyes snap open, coming out of his meditation. Chapter 1-2. The hero rises from his knees. He is immediately surrounded by bullies on all sides, who are already rubbing their fists in anticipation of the beating. One of the students asks Young Kai to choose him. He even promises that he will be very lenient. The guy jokingly calls the student assistant master. The boy receives a powerful punch in the gut from a neighbor, who declares that he only needs 1 blow to end the fight. The second guy claims that this way he will save everyone time. A stampede of students begins. Everyone wants to show their superiority over the hero by asking them to choose him. The master assistant is in a hurry to choose his opponent, so someone in the crowd demands that he make his choice faster. Young Kai then throws the broomstick into the air to the astonished stares of those present, who gape in incomprehension. The broom falls to the ground, pointing at a particular student. The guy laughs, happy that he got a chance to prove himself in front of everyone. He comes forward in high spirits, telling his dear brothers not to be angry because he was chosen today. The students get angry, calling the kid a lucky bastard. Young Kai stands in front of his opponent. We are once again shown that he is an assistant disciple and has the third stage of body tempering. His opponent is an ordinary student. His name is Zhu Dingyun, and he has the fifth stage of body tempering. It turns out that in the Sky Tower Pavilion, students differ in rank. The best students are the core students, then the elite students, then the senior students. The penultimate students in this group are ordinary students, and the last are assistant students. The main disciple is chosen from among the elite, later becoming one of the leaders of the sect. Yang Kai notices that Zhu Dingyun may be an ordinary disciple, but he still hasn't been accepted into another sect. Both opponents wish each other a good sparring session, after which the hero is the first to take off. He throws a series of punches, and his opponent notes to himself that this is a wide kick, a must-learn technique for lower-ranked students. He easily dodges Yang Kai's series of punches. Zhu Dingyun abruptly moves to the side, then hits the hero's arm with an elbow, and then ends the series with a knee under the stomach. Yang Kai's face changes. It is clear that he is experiencing unpleasant sensations. Chapter 1-3. Zhu Dingyun is about to throw a right punch at the guy's face, but the latter takes a step back. A normal student's fist sweeps by a few centimeters away from him. This action puts the guy in a stupor. He's a little startled by this development. Yang Kai decides to take advantage of this moment to strike back. The hero clenches his fist, intending to complete the duel. His opponent privately admits that he was tricked, but he does not see anything terrible in this. He decides to strike back. The two students' fists collide. Yang Kai is sent flying backwards by the powerful blow, falling on his back. Zhu Dingyun's fist is steaming. He admits that the opponent's punch was faster than him, but Yang Kai's body is so weak and fragile that it will be critical for him. An ordinary disciple would realize that if his cultivation level was the same as the opponent's, then perhaps he would be the one lying on the ground right now. Zhu Dingyun puts his hands together to mark the end of the fight. He closes his eyes, saying that his brother let him win. The crowd begins to mock the actions of an ordinary student. One of them is surprised that Zhu Dingyun thought that he really had won. The other guy laughs at this, claiming that the guy probably never heard of Yang Kai's reputation. A voice from the outside notes that this is getting interesting. Zhu Dingyun himself doesn't understand what's going on. He understands that he only used one punch to take down the opponent. However, based on the rules of the sect, his opponent should have lost since he can't fight anymore. Yang Kai rises to his feet at this time. He demands another duel, and then breaks down from his seat, starting to quickly reduce the distance between himself and the enemy. The hero turns his leg for a kick, and Zhu Dingyun recognizes this kick. It's a foot whip. The guy is amazed that his opponent can easily use this technique like this. The average student is not lost. He strikes Yang Kai first, knocking him back to the floor. The hero rises to his feet again, demanding to repeat the duel again, while Yang Kai again breaks down on his opponent to make another attempt. One of the crowd points out that Yang Kai is incredible, but he points out that no matter how long the guy goes up, he still loses. At the same time, Zhu Dingyun, who is parrying all the blows of the opponent and striking back, can't believe that he was challenged to a fight by such a madman. Chapter 1-4. Yang Kai didn't give up. Time after time, he rose to his feet, attacking his opponent with the same tenacity and strength. Zhu Dingyun was already starting to think that his boyfriend was crazy, because if he didn't give up right now, he would injure himself. Looking into his brother's eyes and seeing only the determination to win, Zhu Dingyun realized that Yang Kai would not stop until he lost consciousness. As Zhu Dingyun moved away from another quick but not strong blow from his opponent, he decided to end this eternal confrontation. To do this, he struck a not weak blow with the edge of his palm on the neck of his brother, who after such a blow lost consciousness, falling to the floor. At the same time, a girl wearing a mask covering the lower part of her face was standing on a tree. She has a blue dot in her forehead and a pink bow with yellow inserts on her head. She is dressed in a lilac dress. She wrote down with a brush in her notebook that assistant disciple Yang Kai had fought an ordinary disciple, Zhu Dingyun. There is also a note saying that Zhu Dingyun won. It turned out that the girl belongs to the Hall of Shadows of the Sky Tower Pavilion. These are special forces. They are under the jurisdiction of the Third Elder. Their job is to keep records of everything that happens within the sect, including duels between students. None of the students are worried about their achievements or points earned in the sect. The Shadow Hall disciples take this into account as well, announcing the results every month. The girl wrote that it was the 7th century, the 15th year, and the month of May. She prescribed that Yang Kai's 147th trial was not successful. It turns out that the hero was tested every new month, trying to assess his speed of growth. Watching Yang Kai lying on the floor, the girl thinks about his motivation. She understands that being defeated 147 times is a record number in the entire history of the Heavenly Pavilion. A representative of the fair sex notices that the guy has already been demoted to an assistant student, and his well-being is neglected. Then she wonders what's keeping him in this place. She guesses that it was all because of his own stupidity. The hero rises to his feet. My whole body aches and my limbs tremble. He remembers that he didn't pass out under the tree, so he wonders why he woke up under it. Chapter 1-5. Kai notes that what is happening is very strange, because he does not remember before that there was someone in the sect who was kind enough to drag him under a tree. The guy breaks out of his thoughts, pain all over his body. The hero nervously complains that his bleeding wounds are not shared anywhere, even though he was dragged under a tree. He grabs his back. Then he notes that it would be better to leave it in the same place, because now he will have to heal your wounds more thoroughly. Then he notices that there's something in his right hand. He opens his fingers and sees a small bottle labeled medicinal ointment. Kai reflects on what is happening. In his hands is an ointment that stimulates blood clotting. He understands that the medicine in this place can be purchased for 10 achievement points. This means that even for a month of dirty work, he will not be able to buy such an ointment. The guy sniffs the smell, trying to figure out what it is. He is surprised to realize that this is medicine with smell-enhancing herbs. The guy hides the bottle in his clothes, mentally declaring that even though he still doesn't know who helped him, he, Kai, will definitely repay this person in the future. After such thoughts, the hero picks up his broom from the ground and goes to his small house. Kai takes off his clothes. There are several dozen bruises and abrasions on his body. He throws his things aside, leaving only his underwear on. Taking out a bottle of medicinal ointment, he decides to use it. Kai opens it, then takes a small part on his fingers. The guy understands that the ointment that stimulates blood clotting is good against physical wounds. But if he dilutes it in water, the effect will be much weaker. As much as the hero wanted to use all the ointment at once, but his brain kept saying that this should not be done, so he diluted a small part of the bottle in the water that began to wash. Kai understands that he must use this ointment very carefully. Having finished with the treatment of wounds, the hero collapses on the hay, which serves as a bed for him. He puts on clothes in advance so that it is more or less comfortable to sleep. The hero closes his eyes, hiding behind some kind of blanket. Suddenly, a faint purple mist appears next to him. Because of it, the guy starts to sweat a lot. Chapter 1-6. Kai sleeps on his back. Under his head appears a strange object in the form of a parallelepiped, which has a purple color. The guy dreams of one of his fights. After another fall, the hero rises to his feet and again breaks down on the enemy. His opponent is Zhu Dingyun. The opponent is amazed that this idiot does not give up. Then Kai jumps on it. With a kick, he knocks the opponent to the ground. The guy admits that he lost his balance. Standing over the defeated opponent, the hero grins. He breathes heavily, but confidently declares that it was not difficult for him to defeat him, and that soon no one in the whole world can resist him. Kai's smile in his dream is reflected on his real body. A strange dark purple energy penetrates the room to the guy. It reaches his body and hits him squarely in the head, causing him to wake up with an unpleasant sensation. Kai jumps up from his seat. Finding no one in the room but himself, he exhales calmly, mentally wondering what kind of dream he had. He admits that in that dream, he was so intimidating. The hero quickly discards such thoughts, considering all this nonsense. He looks through the hole and sees that the sun is still at its zenith, which means he's only been asleep for a couple of hours. The guy gets out of bed and puts all the bedclothes nicely. Then he notices something strange. He picks up a piece of rock. It seems to him that he has become different. It looks like it has become a little lighter. Then the stone jumps out of his hands, starting to glow with a purple glow. It opens abruptly. It turns out that this is a book. An unknown force begins to turn one page after another, as if looking for something necessary. When the book opens on a certain page, it falls to the floor. Kai looks on in bewilderment. He hesitates for a few moments about what to do, and then decides to pick up the object from the floor. His body is shaking slightly from fear, but he picks up the book from the floor anyway. When he touches it, the purple energy reappears. Chapter 1-7. Kai picks up the book, starting to flip through its pages. During this process, he realizes that the book is quite solid, but completely empty. The guy remembers that, "I found this black stone while hunting in the mountains." He admits that he never thought it would turn out to be a book. The hero mentally notes that an empty book is of no use. Then he notices that yellow letters appear on one of the pages. They form several lines that read as follows: "With a suitable vessel, a golden body will descend. It's not a miracle, but a golden immortal." Kai slams the book shut, realizing that the words have an intimidating aura. He hesitates for a few moments, biting his lip, before finally working up the courage to open the book again. Opening the book in the same place, the hero reads to the very end the entire phrase, which sounds like this: "With a suitable vessel, a golden body will descend. It's not a miracle, but a golden immortal. Don't break the rules. May the indomitable spirit descend." The guy is trying to rethink everything. His last words about the indomitable spirit catch on. They don't understand what it means. He tries to sort through everything that happened earlier in his head, from turning the stones into a book to his dream. He guesses that his last dream may have something to do with this book. After repeating to himself the first lines about the golden body descending with a suitable vessel, young Kai decides to take a chance and try. He bites his thumb until it bleeds, and then a few drops fall on the page of the book. The place where his blood comes in contact with the book does not form spots, but a dark purple whirlpool appears. The spinning funnel continues to grow and literally rises from the book, freezing in the air above it. The hero repeats to himself the words that with a suitable vessel, a golden body will descend. A bright object appears out of the whirlpool. Because of its high brightness, it is difficult to understand what it is. The golden swirl transforms, and young Kai sees a skeleton sitting in the lotus position. The dark purple swirl on the pages of the book gradually disappears. Looking at the skull of the creature that has appeared, the guy thinks that he is mocking him, so the hero begins to pull his hands to him, trying to show him his place, because this is just an ordinary skeleton in his opinion. Chapter 1-8. The guy's hand passes through the skull of a golden skeleton, which abruptly begins to move towards him. In the next instant, the golden skeleton makes contact with the hero's torso. A powerful maelstrom of yellow energy envelops young Kai's body, which begins to absorb the power. The hero falls to the floor. Sweat trails down his temples. The book falls down beside him, and he growls in pain. Dropping to his knees, he clutches his chest, starting to feel the changes inside his skeleton. His broken and cracked bones begin to heal right before his eyes. It is clear that this does not happen painlessly. Young Kai screams from the unbearable pain inside his body. This is heard by one of the students who passed near his house. The guy is trying to withstand the real torment of hell. At the same time, he realizes that this golden immortal will want to take over his body and mind. But the hero does not intend to just retreat. He is determined to preserve his body and mind. Several hours pass. Evening comes. The day is drawing to a close. The sun is no longer as bright as it was at noon. Its rays took on a dimmer tone. The hero continues to lie on the floor, trying to endure this torture. Young Kai takes a sitting position, holding his head with one hand. He's trying to figure out what's going on right now, and what this book was doing in that forest. Then he is surprised to realize that his body is no longer aching from the pain. Once on his feet, the hero feels that he has become stronger. He assumes that his body has become stronger. He grabs his left hand by the wrist, realizing that all his injuries have evaporated. But it doesn't really change anything, because he's still at the third stage of body tempering. No drastic changes have taken place. Young Kai starts looking around nervously. He doesn't know where that book went. Just as he thought of it, the black book materialized in midair, falling to the floor with a loud pop. The guy walked over to the black book and picked it up from the floor. I checked my guess several times. It turned out that the book can appear and disappear at his behest. Chapter 1-9. He finally realized that this was a book made out of spirit stone. Only when hundreds of millions of spirits are gathered together in the abyss, and coupled with the exorbitant human labor, is such a spiritual stone created. The hero understands that with the help of such a treasure, not only can he easily crush the Heavenly Pavilion, but also almost any expert in this world. Young Kai realizes that he is too weak right now, so he wonders how he can keep this book safe. The guy admits that going out alone is practice. The only way he can protect her is to become stronger. Up to this point, he has traveled a lot and seen a lot of different things, so now it's time to start training. The hero decides that he needs to make the most of it, since he owns this black book. He notices that there are still many pages in the book, which means that there is more than one treasure hidden in it. The hero opens a new page of the book, where another entry also appears, which reads, Majestic Golden Body, Body Tempering Records. The guy feels that something is pouring into his mind. Young Kai realizes that the notes on the body tempering technique have appeared in his head. He recalls one of the strokes, which looks very simple, but in fact, in order to achieve a good performance of this blow, it is necessary to observe a strict requirement, to practice only while facing the rising sun in the east. It follows that he will only be able to practice it for half an hour every day. The guy notices that the sun has set below the horizon. He yawns, noting that it's late and it's time to go to bed. The hero puts the book next to him and falls on his side, sinking into sleep. It's early morning. The roosters don't even have time to start singing when young Kai comes out of his house. Seeing that the sun is just beginning to rise from the horizon, he knows that now is the right time. The guy takes a deep breath, then takes a fighting stance in order to start honing that very blow. He puts his hands shoulder-width apart, then concentrates his strength between his palms, preparing to hold the first blow correctly. The hero makes a blow, after which he begins to feel an unpleasant kickback in the bones all over his body, which begin to crack from the heavy load. Chapter 1-10. Yongkai is breathing heavily, trying to catch his breath. Sweat is pouring down his face. He realizes that it was only the first of 6 moves. The guy is horrified that this is not even 1% of the body tempering technique, but it already has some difficulties in learning. After taking a couple of breaths, the hero takes a deep breath, deciding to continue training. Mentally, he notes that he must not give up. The next 3 moves are also not easy. Sweat drops from the guy's fists, and after performing the movements, the whole body begins to tremble from the frenzied load. He exhales heavily and then continues training, realizing that there isn't much time to hone this punch. With a belligerent roar, he continues to repeat those 6 movements, which each time are given easier and easier to the hero. Half an hour passes. Training time is over. The hero closes his eyes to calm the trembling all over his body and assess his progress. He is experiencing a very unusual feeling. He is visited by the thought that he has moved on to the 4th stage of body hardening. He marvels at this, as it took him almost 3 years to reach the 3rd stage of body tempering, and it only took him half an hour to advance further. Yongkai realizes that the technique he used now is extremely effective. The hero's face paled. It turned out that there was a side effect of such a tough workout. Yongkai fell to his knees, spitting out some strange black concoction from his body. After wiping his lips when the vomit is all out, the guy realizes that it is the impurities of his body. It turns out that the practice of the body hardening technique contributes to the gradual removal of impurities from the body. Yongkai had experienced this before, but never before, faced with such a volume. As he gets to his feet, he realizes that even though he has reached a new stage, he still hasn't been able to make any real progress in learning the fist tempering technique. Raising his eyes to the sky, the hero realizes that he was able to comprehend only about 1% of the entire technique. But even now he is beginning to wonder what will happen when he fully masters it. Yongkai picks up a broom and goes about his business. Chapter 1-11. A girl with a dark blue diamond in her forehead stands at her post, continuing to keep records of what is happening in her zone. Then she notices that the guy she helped yesterday is now alive and well and starts dusting the entrance. Yongkai goes about his business with a serious face. One of the students asks how he is doing, and the other sweeps that the hero has been sweeping in this place for an hour. The girl watching everything from the tree laughs. Mentally, I think the guy is an oddball. The guy is completely lost in his own thoughts. Despite the fact that he now practices such a special tempering technique every morning, it turns out that the rest of the day he is always free. Then the hero hears footsteps nearby. One of the students runs into him, but Yongkai remains standing like a rock while the runner falls on his 5th point, trying to recover. The hero decides to find out if everything is in order with the brother student. The boy assures the other person that everything is fine, repeating it twice out of excitement, and in his mind he wonders when Yongkai became so strong, because not so long ago, he could not stand up to anyone like an autumn leaf. The boy quickly gets to his feet and runs away, saying one last word that he has to go. Yongkai asks the fleeing disciple brother where he is going in such a hurry. The guy tells him that he is going to the Hall of Merit. Then it dawns on the hero that today is the 8th day of the month. It turns out that every 8th day of the month, all students' achievement points are added up, and as a result, they are awarded rewards and, possibly, even promoted in rank. The guy starts counting his points. He only had 10 contribution points. However, he was challenged 6 times, in which he lost. This means that he lost 6 points, respectively. Yongkai exhales heavily, realizing that this time, he will only get 4 points in a month. He also notices that he may have continued to sweep without remembering the event. The hero enters the Hall of Merit. He sees an old man sitting with his back to the guests. The guy understands that this old man is dreaming about the students of their pavilion again. The old man really has hearts in his eyes. He does not react to the appearance of the guy, continuing to fly in his dreams. Yongkai refers to the old man as Guardian Meng. Then the old man pays attention to him, turning his whole body towards him. He calls them child, smiling slightly. Chapter 1-12. The hero decides to clarify what the other person is looking at in this way. The old man answers the question with a question, wanting to know why the disciple didn't arrive here this morning. Yongkai claims that he had too much to do this morning. Guardian Meng begins to wag, saying that he understands everything. But it turns out that the student interrupted his serious thoughts about the secrets of the universe. The old man asks whether to give everything to the student as usual. The guy gives a positive answer, after which 10 pieces of silver appear on the table, and Keeper Meng himself fixes them in his document. Yongkai decides to clarify how many contribution points he currently has available. The man explains that each month the guy gets 4 points, one of which he spends on 10 silver coins. That leaves 3. In total, he had accumulated 12 contribution points. The old man asks if the guy wants to buy a bottle of cream for healing wounds. The hero refuses, but thanks for the offer. Inwardly, he realizes that 12 points is very small, because he can't even ask for one stalk of precious herbs. Guardian Meng notes that the growth rate of a disciple is greatly affected due to the fact that he is trying to save up for the essence tempering pill, so the old man wonders how much longer he still wants to collect. Glasses. The guy, realizing that his path is very difficult, notes that he can succeed thanks to this. The old man declares that with his current growth rate, he will have long since passed away. The hero still decides to find out one important detail that he does not understand. The interlocutor allows you to ask a question. He wonders why no one has exchanged their points for the essence tempering pill so far, even though there was even an announcement that it appeared in their pavilion. Keeper Meng explains that the whole reason is up to him. It turns out that O personally manages it, so very few people know about it. These words surprise the guy, so he asks again if the other person really has the pill. The old man replies that the interlocutor should not think too much, because even if he has it now, he still has to exchange it for contribution points. The old man notes that his word in this matter is far from the last. Then the guy confidently declares that he will accumulate a sufficient number of contribution points. Guardian Meng noticed the fact that he had heard about the hero being beaten up recently. Yang Kai's face darkens at these words. He doesn't understand the mood of the other person, so he turns around and starts moving towards the exit. In the doorway, he hears the voice of an old man, who asks the young man not to leave and talk to him. The hero also notes that they have nothing more to talk about. In Yang Kai's opinion, the old man was even glad to be defeated. An experienced man advises the young man to return home, because he believes that the Sky Pavilion is not the right place for him. Guardian Meng is worried about the other person, because if his trial is prolonged, then one day he may lose his life. These words make the hero stop. He stands for a few seconds, thinking about the other person's words and waiting for some continuation, but when he gets nothing more, he declares that he has no place to go back to. Yang Kai then leaves the room. Chapter 1-13. Keeper Meng laughs after the hero leaves. He wonders how long the essence tempering pill will last in this old man's possession. Then the mentor notices that it came to him to lie a little to help the guy. However, he thinks that the interlocutor still would not believe him. Events are transferred to the village of Black Plum. As Yang Kai walks down the street, where there is a huge number of residents, he remembers that every time he visited this village, he felt a little anxious and unpleasant, but today these feelings are not present. The hero seriously thinks about what this might be related to. He assumes that the golden skeleton has something to do with it. Passing by a dark alley, the guy notices that several people are communicating in it. One of them is wearing the shape of a sky pavilion. One of the guys notices Yang Kai. He has black hair, a scar on his forehead, and a small cut under his right eye. Seeing the witness, the brunette is angry, but the hero manages to leave before something happens. Approaching the designated place, the hero thinks about whether his vision failed, because among the crowd he saw a brother student. After that, he realizes that it's quite normal, because Black Plum Village is located near the Sky Pavilion, so it's normal to see a couple of disciples here. Opening the door, he calls out to his aunt. A girl comes out to him, who asks if the guy has come for rice again. Yang Kai confirms this by asking for one bag. Then the saleswoman notices the fact that the hero buys a bag of rice only once a month, which makes her have a logical question about whether this is exactly enough for the guy. Yang Kai says that one bag of rice for a month is more than enough for him. My aunt points out that he is a real liar, because just by looking at his emaciated body, you can understand that he is not eating enough. The brunette also emphasizes that he also hunts in the mountains nearby to feed himself. After listening to the conversation between the wife and the buyer, the merchant declares that the woman can take that old rice from the warehouse and give it to this young man. A representative of the fair sex supports this decision. The hero feels uncomfortable about this, so he asks them to stop and not do it, claiming that they don't have to do it at all. My aunt says that they can't sell these bags because the insects chewed through them. In addition, she adds that her husband said that getting rid of insects is much more important than a couple of bags of rice. The woman asks the guy to wait on the spot while she goes to get rice. The hero, meanwhile, talks to himself about this situation. It turns out that every time he buys rice, the boss and his wife constantly find different excuses to give him much more rice. In fact, there is nothing wrong with rice. It's not old or anything. Yang Kai thanks Auntie for this. Chapter 1-14. While the woman goes to get rice, the hero is left alone with the boss. The man starts the conversation by noticing that the guy is lonely and that he is having a hard time right now, so he decides to give him a helping hand at such a moment. It says that if the guy is hungry, then let him come to them. The merchant confirms that they do not have much, but there is always rice. Yang Kai can only accept such help with bowed head, because he doesn't know how to respond to such kindness. At the same time, a couple of young men approach the store. One of them is supporting the other by the shoulder. They are met by a young guy who is dressed the same as the boss. He specifies what the gentleman would like to buy. Those, in turn, demand that he get out of the way. One of the visitors hits a young boy with his leg. He falls to the floor, clutching his bruised side, where the blow landed. The boss immediately flies up from his seat, trying to figure out what happened here. Young Kai is currently lifting the injured person off the floor, trying to somehow help him. The hero looks up and recognizes the guys. He had seen them in the alley he passed on his way to this place. The guy with the scar on his head loudly asks who is the boss here. The man replies that he is the owner. Then the brunette lashes out at him with accusations. According to him, he sold poisoned rice, which caused even his comrade, being strong and robust, to very simply become so weak after a bowl of his rice. The guest claims that the owner of the establishment sells poisoned rice for profit. After such a statement, the owner begins to strain a little, assuring that this is simply impossible. Then the guy with the scar on his forehead continues to push, claiming that his friend bought some rice from him in the morning and dined on it, after which he became so weak that the guy himself did not have time to eat his portion. The man begins to worry a lot, so he interrupts the interlocutor, saying that all this is some kind of misunderstanding. Then the visitor claims that the old man is blatantly lying, because if not for his rice, then everything would be fine with his brother now. Yang Kai gets up from his seat, because the boy who was hit by the guest's blow has already come to his senses. He approaches the two guys, about to say something to them, but the owner's hand stops him. The old man explains that even if he suffers a loss, he must avoid trouble. These words startle the hero, but the man returns to the question of the guests. He notices that he can't do anything to help the guy with his brother's illness. These words sting the young man with the scar on his forehead, but the owner keeps talking. The man notes that there is absolutely nothing he can do here other than just look at his brother, so he suggests calling a doctor for the guy. He also says that if young people have problems with money, he will be able to pay for treatment himself. This annoys the brunette, for whom such words sound as if the owner wants to make them look like scammers. The guy claims that they are decent people who always follow the path of good, but the owner sold them poisoned rice, so they have no other choice. The hero notices to himself that he does not see any real decency in the guy opposite. After listening to the words of the victims of poisoned rice, the owner ceases to understand at all what these people want from him, so he rushes to find out about it. At this time, a crowd of people gathers on the street, which warms the ears. A young man dressed in the clothes of a disciple of the Heavenly Pavilion also enters the room. That's when Yang Kai realizes that he's already seen these guys in that alley. Chapter 1-15. A new person wearing the clothes of a disciple of the Heavenly Pavilion enters the room. He assesses the condition of the victim, and then goes to the owner of the establishment. The hero also realizes that all these guys are familiar with each other, so he is sure that they are up to something. The companions exchange glances, after which the student approaches the owner. A dark-haired man with a scar under his eye declares that the guest should not pretend to be a hero. The disciple of the Heavenly Pavilion notices that the guy's brother is very weak, so he rushes to find out if this poison is really so strong. The victim's brother says that all this is obvious. In addition, according to him, they are already spending this precious time on treatment in order to bring the old man to clean water. After that, the chatterbox focuses on the fact that if this is not done, then other people may suffer. Yang Kai, meanwhile, takes a moment to talk to the owner. He asks if Uncle He has offended any of them before. The man nervously replies that he doesn't. The hero then begins to speculate that his rice shop has begun to interfere with someone. The interlocutor does not quite understand who can interfere with such a small shop. After hearing a rather strange answer, Yang Kai tries to understand what the visitors are up to, arranging such a theatrical performance. Here, the disciple of the Heavenly Pavilion sneers, then abruptly strikes at the patient, warning him of the danger in advance. At the last moment, the poisoned one evades the guy's attack, breaking the distance with a jump. Then the disciple of the Heavenly Pavilion is surprised that, despite the poison, the guy very easily dodged his attack. One man in the crowd shouts that he is a crook who tried to frame them. The second one notices that the disciple of the Heavenly Pavilion has very impressive martial arts. Meanwhile, Yang Kai is seriously considering the situation. The heroic actions of the disciple brother, who defends the honor of the weak, are very correct, but the hero has doubts about the purity of his intentions because he saw him in that alley. She wonders what the show is all about. At the same time, the guy with the scar on his forehead declares that the disciple of the Heavenly Pavilion should not pry into other people's affairs. A guy who wants to look like a hero of the people introduces himself. His name is Sumu, and he is a disciple of the Heavenly Pavilion, as expected. The most grumpy guy notices that they admit defeat because they can't compete with the Sky Pavilion. but he claims that he remembered the other person's name, so one day they will meet again. At the same time, the hero almost laughs, amazed at this masterpiece game, because these actors do not even have an Oscar. Sumu demands that the deceivers get out of his sight. A couple of brothers are about to leave the store together. The hero also realizes that if you let them leave like this, then their plan will be successfully completed. Yonkai suggests that the plan is most likely to get Sumu to start respecting the deceived people. The hero simply cannot allow this, so he calls on the two brothers to stop because they did not even apologize to this shop. He also points out that if they don't teach them a lesson now, they might do the same thing next time, just like at Liu Shi's clothing store or his Yang's grocery store. Chapter 1-16. The crowd supports Yonkai's thoughts. One of them approves that they shouldn't just let these scoundrels go. Another clings to the second part of the hero's monologue, saying that if they let them go, then one day two brothers may come to his store, disgracing their reputation. A couple of guys freeze in place, not knowing what to do. Sumu, on the other hand, becomes angry as he realizes that he is losing control of the situation. At the same time, the hero approaches the guy. He notices that his brother said earlier that all good deeds should be carried out to the end, so Yonkai suggests that they detain these two together. Obviously, this development does not suit the brazen deceiver, so he asks his brother to wait. The hero says that he is also a disciple of the Heavenly Pavilion and stayed in it for almost 3 years. Mentally, the interlocutor is surprised that the dumbass is standing in front of him. Yonkai also emphasizes that it is not worth wasting time, and being brave and courageous is his way in life. So he once again suggests that his brother arrest two scoundrels and help Mr. He restore justice. This will raise the prestige of the village. The crowd approves of such a decision, supporting the two Heavenly Pavilion disciples in doing so. Sumu looks at his companions with an apologetic look. The hero, meanwhile, is smiling behind his back. After waiting for a while, Yonkai still steps forward, placing his hand on his comrade's shoulder and calling him to action with his words. Mentally, the deceiver understands that this was not part of the plan. His plans. He winks at his companions, trying to calm them down. He makes a mental note that one way or another, he must help them escape when the opportunity arises. The two brothers are very worried, and the hero carefully observes the actions of the brother student. Then the owner of the restaurant, Reese, decides to help the guys. He calls out to the crowd, stating that the disciples of the Heavenly Pavilion need help with such a matter. The people were blown up from their seats. They surrounded the two brothers from all sides, preventing them from getting out. The crowd turned on the two guys, starting a small scuffle. The deceiver, who wanted to put himself in a better light in front of the deceived people, was lost, frozen in place, and did not know what to do. When the residents calmed down, two brothers were left lying beaten on the road. One of them began to stretch out his hand in the direction of his friend, literally begging him for help. Sumu also threatened that he wouldn't allow anyone to call him by his first name. Chapter 1-17. A couple of brothers were sprawled on the floor, unable to move. The hero still decided to ask them how many more evil things they had done before. At the same time, Yonkai refers to them as despicable. One of the crowd remarked that the two men were a disgrace to their village. The hero also clung to these words, offering to execute the guys for being a thorn in this village. He immediately asks if anyone has any objections. These words silence everyone present. No one is in a hurry to say anything on this issue. Because of this, a deathly silence has hung. One of the beaten scammers looks up at Sumu, who is still recovering afterward. He thinks the boys have had enough. Yonkai clings to his brother's words. He highlights the important fact that if their prank today had been successful, this shop would probably have closed down, because without income, Uncle He's family would not have been able to survive. The hero notes that they would have starved to death. It is because of this that Brunnet elaborates on how they might not make these scammers pay the price. Sumu claims that there is some truth in his brother's words, but killing people like this is somehow wrong. At the same time, the main fraudster swears to himself because they are tied hand and foot. Yonkai, on the other hand, continues to gently push the other person. He argues that they should both stick to the path of justice and live by helping others. After that, the hero asks if Sumu is not able to end the life of this garbage. Then he immediately corrects himself, asking if there's any reason why his brother doesn't want to kill them. The main scammer tries to keep his face to the very end, so he answers the question with a question, asking the interlocutor if he thinks that he knows something. At this time, the hero is approached by the owner of the institution, who has doubts about such radical measures, which he is in a hurry to express. After listening to Uncle He, the guy returns his gaze to his brother, wanting to finish him off completely. Yonkai says that he thought that his brother was one of those who stands for the weak, but in this case, he does not understand why he cannot do it, because in this way he will help many people. Sumu laughs at this, noticing the fact that the other person thinks he's afraid of it. He begins to defend himself, claiming that he has already seen a life taken many times. After listening to the confident words of the interlocutor, Yang Kang clarifies what then he is waiting for. A disciple of the Heavenly Pavilion becomes despondent, realizing that he dug his own grave out of pride. Just then, one of the beaten guys gets up from his seat on shaky legs. Two brothers claim that Sumu is a liar. They say that he was the one who forced him and his brother to come here and start a fight so that they could help get rid of them, thereby gaining a good reputation. Second brother is supportive, claiming that Sumu's words aren't worth a penny. Sumu says it's all nonsense. This surprises his fellow officers. The guy who pretended to be poisoned by the rice of a local grocery store loudly and clearly tells the whole neighborhood that they were the victim of this guy from Heavenly the Pavilion. He forced them to do it because he thought that the daughter of the boss of this shop would treat him better. Chapter 1-18. Ian can't help but realize that there was no point in lying to the kid, and he knows they know each other. Sumu insists that all this is nonsense to blacken his name. The beaten boy claims that he did not say anything bad, because although the two brothers, do not differ much in knowledge, but even they were in doubt about this plan. The beaten guy continues to insist that everyone around him should know the truth that he and his brother are only victims of his plans. He notes that their families are starving, so they were looking for any ways to earn money, and then Sumu appeared, offering to run an errand. The hero decided to clarify that how much he offered the brothers for such an assignment. Beaten claims that their payment would have been 50 taels in silver. These words startle Yang Kai, who believes that this is quite a lot of money. Uncle He is very angry at this, realizing that the beaten ones probably don't lie. He calls Sumu a scoundrel for trying to get hold of his daughter. The man notes that he has no right to do anything to him, because he is from the Heavenly Pavilion. However, in the place of his parents, he would be very ashamed. The man in the crowd is astonished that someone from the Sky Pavilion would be capable of such meanness. The girl standing next to him supports these words, noting that he is not a hero at all. Sumu knows that he has to leave, because his plan has gone downhill. His reputation was ruined, and all because of this brat. Because of this, the guy decides to approach the hero to find out his name. Yang Kai asks him to guess. This pisses off Sumu, who was already on edge before. He says that the other person should not try to hide the name, because he will find out anyway, because he has been in the pavilion for almost 3 years. The guy notes that on the upcoming test of students, his brother will have a very hard time, because he clearly remembered his face. After making such a furious speech, Sumu hurries to leave the village. He pushes people aside in his path. The hero at this time notices that the two brothers are already gone. Uncle He also rushes to thank the guy for his help, noting that he helped him out a lot today. But the fact that this guy will now have problems does not go away from the experienced eye. Yang Kai also asks not to worry about him, claiming that Sumu is a bad person. Even if he remembers him, it's not a bit scary. Then the owner of this shop puts his hand on the guy's shoulder, saying that he should still be careful, because he will not be able to find a place for himself if something happens to the interlocutor because of him. The hero is forced to agree, promising that he will be more careful in the future. He picks up a bag of rice as he leaves the store. Uncle He wishes him a safe journey, and the boy thanks him again for the rice, asking him not to worry about it. When Yang Kai returned to his small shed, he left the bag of rice at the entrance, noting that now he didn't have to worry about food for the next month. He wiped the beads of sweat from his forehead, then mentally noted that he expected this Sumu to be waiting for him on the way here. It came as a surprise to him that this did not happen. Then the guy realizes that according to the rules of the Sky Pavilion, killing without a particularly important reason, as well as injuring, is prohibited. This means that if Sumu still dared to injure him on the way home, then he would be severely punished. Even if it didn't happen right now, Yang Kai is completely confident that Sumu will challenge him in the future. He realizes that he does not know what stage of body hardening the guy is currently in, so the hero decides to immediately start training. Otherwise, at best, he will be evicted. Chapter 1-19. The hero approaches the training dummy, starting to hone his punches. After a while, he takes a short break, noting the fact that as soon as he got this golden skeleton, his body started to ache a lot. He wonders if he should start training half an hour before dawn. He has practice every morning for 1 hour, but then what to do with the rest of the time? This is a question that worries Yang Kai, who thinks that it might be better to leave time for sleep. After finishing his workout, the guy goes to the bath. Having done all the water treatments, he declares that a bath in the morning is perfectly relaxing. He dries himself off and lies down on a kind of bed, noting that a double result from half the effort is, of course, good, but the return is very serious, so do not overexert your body. Then he remembers the book and calls it back to the real world. Opening the book to the required page, he remembers all the stages of body hardening. The first stage of the golden body tempering technique is to build a foundation, or source. The second stage is a thorough hardening of the body, where the very basics are practiced, but the third stage. At these words, a golden pot appears from the book. The hero takes it with one hand, starting to study it carefully. It turns out that according to what I read in the book, this vessel will help him in practice. This vessel transforms rare herbs into enhancing incense. Yong-kai understands that he should look for the necessary components for this. In addition, for a full-fledged effect, it is necessary to use only those herbs that will be useful at this stage of body hardening. At the current stage of development, a shamrock flower or dead grass will suit the hero. The value of both is small, so he can afford it, although the deadling grass has some toxic substances in it. This is not critical for practitioners, because even an ordinary person can get sick only after a few years. Yong-kai, on the other hand, has doubts about whether these two plants will help him improve his body. Of course, they are available in the contribution hall now, but Keeper Meng will not allow them to be taken away just like that. The price is low, but the guy doesn't have enough contribution points right now, and he was saving up for something more valuable. Yong-kai decides that he has no choice but to rely on his luck in the mountains. Fortunately for him, the Sky Pavilion is located near the mountain range, so he can look for herbs there. The hero decides that he will do this tomorrow, and today he needs to sleep, so he lies down in a kind of bed, covering himself with a blanket. At dawn, Yong-kai practices body tempering, and then sends him to the contribution hall, where he works tirelessly. The work always pays off, because Keeper Meng lends him books where medicinal herbs are presented. This time was no exception. The hero received another book, which contains many medicinal herbs. It includes not only their list and description, but also their approximate location. At noon, Yong-kai took a circuitous route to obtain a document allowing him to take 3 days off from the sect, then packed up everything he needed and set off. Approaching the mountain range, the guy noted the fact that the location of these mountains is quite convenient. Looking down, the hero notices the grass. He is happy that he found Li Jai, although he doesn't deny the fact that collecting it with his bare hands is a bit problematic. After collecting one of the types of herbs, the guy goes further into the mountains. Here on the road he notices a small bush of 3 herbs. It's still not very visible from afar, but he assumes it's dead grass. Coming even closer, the hero takes out a book that has an image of this herb and begins to compare them. After a while, he realizes that they are very similar, so most likely he was lucky. He takes out a tool to gently pull the grass out of the ground. Yong-kai notices that the sun is already sinking below the horizon, so it makes sense to arrange a pass for the night. He sits down under a tree, starting to sash a small piece of rice. The hero decides that after he eats, he will climb a tree and sleep. The night passes quickly and imperceptibly. There comes an earlier morning, on which the hero conducts a training session. After that, he takes out another piece of rice and eats it right on the go. He decides to go back to looking for herbs. Evening comes, and the hero's stomach requires additional food. Yong-kai involuntarily grabs onto it, perfectly understanding the essence of the problem. He remembers that he originally expected to hunt, but he didn't see a single rabbit all day. In his mind's eye, he thinks he should have made more rice balls. The hero thinks about where to find food, not forgetting that the village is far enough away. Then he notices that smoke is coming from a small fishing line nearby. The guy decides to check out the source of the fire. In his mind's eye, he emphasizes the fact that whoever built a fire in the middle of the mountains must be either fearless or just plain stupid. As he gets closer, he can actually see the flames that are lighting up the area brightly, releasing carbon monoxide into the air. He immediately decides to ask who's here. Chapter 1:20. After these words, 2 people immediately point their bows at the hero. The guy is in a hurry to justify himself, saying that everything is in order and he just walked around and collected herbs. Hearing this, the man lowers his bow. His young comrade does not lose his vigilance until the very end, holding the uninvited guest at gunpoint. The man claims that he thought the fire attracted a wild animal, so it was a false alarm. He puts a hand on his partner's shoulder, trying to calm him down. Yong-kai apologizes for bothering me. The man offers to discuss everything around the campfire, because the wind in the mountains is very cold. The hero has no reason to refuse, so he sits down next to the travelers by the fire. The eldest says that his name is Zhang Shan, and that he comes from a small village at the foot of the mountains, and here they go to hunt, thereby providing food for the whole village. The hero involuntarily looks at the young boy next to him, as if asking a silent question. Zhang also says that you should not be so lenient with this boy, because he is already an avid hunter, which will soon give him a head start. The man is in a hurry to find out who he met, where he came from and where he is going. Yong-kai unhesitatingly reveals that he is a disciple of the Heavenly Pavilion, and that he is here in search of herbs. These words surprise Zhang Shan, who points out that the boy also wants to start practicing there one day. In addition, the boy greatly admires the disciples of the Heavenly Pavilion. The hero puts his hand on the boy's head, declaring that even if he is not very talented, then strength and labor will grind everything out. The boy laughs at this, and then passes the boy a piece of bread. Yong-kai initially refuses, noting that food is worth its weight in gold in the mountains, and the interlocutors need to take care of themselves. The man notices that the guy has not eaten anything for a long time, so he should not refuse. Then the hero accepts the food, thanking the interlocutors for it. After eating, the trio goes to bed. Yong-kai gets up first in the morning. The fire is already out, and the hunters are still asleep. He also notes that even separately, herbs have an excellent therapeutic effect. She leaves some herbs for the two travelers, noting that even if it's not much, he should somehow thank them. After moving a little away from the camp, the hero takes a fighting stance, intending to start practicing body tempering. Then she notices that something strange is happening. He feels that a strange warm feeling is spreading all over his body, and the meridians are filled with something. Chapter 1-20. It turns out that the hero has reached the 5th stage of body tempering. This is a very fast growth. After all, he had only been practicing this golden body tempering technique for a couple of days. Yong-kai takes the bag of his belongings and slings it over his shoulder for comfort. For a moment, he wonders what would have happened if the practice time hadn't been limited to dawn alone. After a while, the hero is lucky. He manages to catch a rabbit. He looks around, mentally noting that he's already walked about 30 miles from the entrance. If he decides to go further, he may encounter dangerous beasts that he can't provoke yet. Because of such objective and correct thoughts, Yong-kai realizes that he is still very weak. He moves on, reflecting on his position. But a ringing gust of wind causes all the birds nearby to fly in different directions. This unusual phenomenon attracts the guy's attention. The hero takes off, realizing that something bad has happened. After a few moments, he reaches the place where the terrible hum was coming from. He sees the entrance to the cave, which is literally covered with huge cobwebs. From the eyes of the guy also does not leave the fact that there is a bow lying on the ground. Yong-kai tosses his duffel bag out of the way, then looks into the depths of the cave from the entrance. The cave turns out to be very big. The exit from the other side is not visible, and after a few meters it is semi-dark. There is also a huge amount of cobwebs in the cave, which obviously interferes with normal movement. The hero starts moving forward. He is not very comfortable in such a place, but everything indicates that someone has fallen into the clutches of a monster. Going deeper into the cave, the guy stumbles upon several skeletons that are wrapped in cocoons of cobwebs. After that, Yong-kai notices a living person in the same cocoon in front of him. He recognizes it immediately. This is Zhang Shan. The guy puts 2 fingers to the man's nose, then notices that he is still breathing. The man comes to his senses abruptly, noticing the hero. He tells him that the spider dragged the boy inside the cave. The hunter asks you to save him. Yong-kai tries to untie the spider cocoon that Zhang Shan is trapped in, but he quickly realizes that these threads will be difficult to cut, deciding that now is not the time to untie the man's cocoon. The boy goes forward, deeper into the cave, telling the man that he will save the boy and let Zhang Shan wait for him here. The man thanks the guy for this, warning him to be careful because this spider is huge. Chapter 1-21. After some time, Yong-kai reaches a huge recess of the cave, in which there is a huge spider web. The owner of this place is sitting on it, dealing with another victim. There's a pile of human skeletons on the ground, wrapped from head to neck in cocoons of cobwebs. The hero also notices that the monster has already sunk its fangs into the boy. He realizes that this is not a good sign. The guy demands that the spider stop, but the monster does not listen to him. Then he runs up and jumps and charges the monster's belly with his fist. From such a powerful blow, the web breaks and the boy falls to the ground. The hero and spider land on a hard surface. Yong-kai takes off, wanting to grab the boy and run away. He has no desire to face off against a huge spider. The 6-legged monster has its own views on this situation. She very confidently closes the distance, then knocks the guy off his feet, looming over him. The guy doesn't get lost noticing that the lower part of the monster is open. He punches the spider's belly. The blow throws the monster slightly, but the hero does not have time to get out from under it, so he adds a kick in the same place, knocking the spider back. Yong-kai realizes that the risk of being poisoned is too great, so he shouldn't waste any more time. In addition, the guy has doubts that he can handle such a simple monster at his current level of strength. The hero turns his gaze to the boy in the cocoon, realizing that if he does not hurry, he may die. The spider immediately takes advantage of this. It sticks to the wall, then releases a stream of cobwebs from its belly. The guy manages to jump out of the way, avoiding the attack. Then Yong-kai notices that the big monster abruptly stops firing. In his mind, the dark-haired man wonders what his opponent is up to. He looks around, noticing that the exit from this cave is sealed with cobwebs. The guy realizes that the monster wants to make them stay to die in this place. Then he notices that the spider decides to take action. Yang Kai deftly dodges the spider web's shots, confidently closing the distance. The hero acts too confidently, shortening the distance and gaining speed. He tries to hit the monster with a jump, but the guy does not take into account the fact that with such a direct attack, he opens up a lot. One of the spider's sharp paws strikes ahead of the other. Yang Kai notices this late, and it's impossible to avoid the attack in the air, so he puts his hands out in a cross-shaped block in front of him, knowing full well that the monster will get him first. A sharp spider limb pierces the hero's right arm. The monster looms over another victim. He hisses furiously, hoping to intimidate her completely. The hero mentally notes that despite the fact that it was painful, for some reason he does not worry and retains his composure. Yang Kai abruptly strikes the spider's face with the hand that was pierced through. Blood sprays from the monster's face, and the huge spider screams in pain. The hero doesn't stop there. He repeats his punch, which hits the spider right in the eye. This time, the fist falls on the neighboring eye, from which nothing remains either. After that, the guy gets into a fighting stance, preparing to continue the fight. He's a little surprised that the monster still won't settle down, noting its survivability. An involuntary smile appears on the guy's face. Yang Kai lands a series of punches on the spider's carcass. He hits without thinking, and the monster tries to kick back. Suddenly, the hero's instincts begin to trumpet danger. He notices that the enemy is trying to trap him. A stream of cobwebs shoots out of its belly. It begins to wrap around the guy's body, but the hero notices that the spider's strength is already running out, so he decides to finish everything. With a powerful blow to the monster's head, the brunette sends it to the ground. Yang Kai is a little surprised that he could kill such a beast. He points out that even if it's only a wild beast, but at its 5th stage of body tempering, it would be difficult to deal with it, even though it didn't suffer much damage. After making sure that the monster is still defeated, the hero pulls out the sharp leg of the spider from his hand, and then unties his body from the web that managed to get on it during the battle. Then he picks up the boy and starts walking back. Zhang Shan runs out to meet them. He immediately asks a question about the condition of the boy, who is still not recovered. It can be seen that the hunter is very concerned about this. So the hero rushes to calm him down, explaining that the boy has lost too much blood, which is why he is now unconscious. Yang Kai places the boy's body on the ground in front of the man, asking him to wait for him here. He storms off, claiming that he needs to find something. Chapter 1-22. The guy runs to his bag of things, which he left at the entrance, and then unties it, taking out a few herbs. He puts a couple in his mouth and takes the rest with him. Yang Kai returns to the hunters. He applies a handful of herbs to the spider bite wound on the boy's body. Zhang Shan wonders what will happen to this child. The hero also emphasizes that the medicinal properties of these herbs perfectly counteract the poison, so he is sure that everything will be fine. The boy writhes in pain for a few moments. He shivers all over, and then his breathing becomes even and calm. The trembling gradually subsides. Zhang Shan understands everything. Tears of joy fill his eyes. He wipes them away with the back of his hand, noting that the boy is fine, which he is very happy about. Yang Kai is in a hurry to tell the adult that everything is not so simple. It turns out that his herbs only neutralize the bite site, so the boy still needs full-fledged treatment. The hunter quickly comes to his senses, stating that then they need to immediately take the boy to the healer. The hero asks the interlocutor not to rush and give time for the effect to strengthen a little. The man agrees with this. After a few moments, Zhang Shan abruptly realizes that he has forgotten something. He turns his head in the boy's direction, determined to find out how he feels and how his injuries are. The hero also says that you should not worry about him. The man is amazed that the other person can still stand up after losing so much blood. Yang Kai clenches his fingers into a fist and says he's not too sure, but somehow he feels fine. Here the hero already remembers something. He grabs the bag with his things, declaring that he will be back soon. Starting to go deeper into the cave, the guy demands that the hunters wait for him on the spot. Zhang Shan has a silent question, but he doesn't say it out loud. The reason Yang Kai decided to return to the cave is quite obvious. It turns out that while he was fighting that giant spider, he noticed that there was a whole storehouse of medicinal herbs here. The guy laughs happily, noting that he's finally found a shamrock. Picking up a rare type of herb in his bag, which he has been looking for so long, the hero remembers that this plant is very fastidious. It grows in wet and dark places, and there are a lot of corpses in this cave that only tone down its growth, so this cave is perfect for this plant. The guy notices that 2 hunters helped him, because only in their footsteps did he find this cave. After collecting all the necessary grass, Yang Kai notices an unusual mushroom that literally glows red in the semi-darkness of the cave. The hero realizes that he has not seen anything like this in the old man's book, so he decides to tear it down in order to show it to him later. After finishing his business in the cave, the hero leaves it together with the hunters. The guy says that he will take the boy and the man to their village. Zhang Shan also notices that he will never be able to pay him back. Yang Kai also claims that these are small things. The trio reaches the village, after which the man and the boy enter the house where the healer receives visitors. Zhang Shan is very nervous, so he asks a lot of questions about what is wrong with his son and whether he can be cured. The healer is not satisfied with this, because the man interferes with his work, so she pushes the hunter out of the room, demanding to wait outside. The man notices the hero waiting at the door all this time. Zhang Shan falls to his knees, telling that the master healer told him that thanks to the boy's medicine, he will be able to cure the boy. The hunter bows his head, noting that without his help, he wouldn't even know what to do. The man sincerely thanks the guy for this. Yang Kai insists that there is nothing wrong with this, because he only helped as much as he could. The guy notices the fact that the hunters fed him earlier, so they're even. The man raises his head, declaring that the interlocutor is really a good person. A few minutes later, the healer left the house. He said that everything is fine and there is no need to worry, because the hunter's son is in perfect order, but due to blood loss, he will not regain consciousness for some time. This news pleases Zhang Shan. He sincerely thanks the doctor, who shyly scratches his long beard. Meanwhile, in the Sky Pavilion, the disciples are discussing the hero among themselves. One of them is wondering if Yang Kai has returned to work. His friend is surprised that the interlocutor does not know. He also explains that he has not yet returned, because in the last days he disappears somewhere. Someone in the crowd expresses hope that Yang Kai has left the Sky Pavilion, but another disciple says that this can't be the case, because their Yang Kai has a strong character that makes it very difficult to break, so if he wanted to leave, he would have done it long ago. Sumu, on the other hand, tells his friends about something that made him very angry. Then he notices that the crowd ahead of him is making a lot of noise. This gets his attention, so he rushes to find out what's going on there. Chapter 1-23. Comrade Sumu declares that today is the day when students can challenge Yang Kai. The guy notes that this is a great chance for his interlocutor. Sumu also notices the fact that Brother Yang has some difficulties with this. The guy is in a hurry to explain that, basically, he is beaten every time. He even wonders how Yang Kai is still holding up. Sumu also says that he feels sorry for Brother Yang, but this pity is not enough to forgive him, so he wants to do everything possible to expel Yang Kai from the Heavenly Pavilion. Sumu decides to play this game. The other person notices that Yang Kai has been quite funny, because he didn't even bother to find out more about his enemy after messing up his plan in Black Plum City. Sumu demands that his friend stop talking like this. He asks his friend to tell the others to get ready. The boy steps forward and bows his head to inform everyone present that Brother Su is gathering everyone to put Yang Kai in his place. One of the brothers doesn't quite understand what this is all about. He points out that Yang Kai always uses his broomstick as his opponent's choice, so he wonders why these students haven't come before. Here the friend puts his hand on the shoulder of the boy, who only talked about the rules of selecting opponents for Brother Jan. He asks if he knows who Sumu is. The guy doesn't understand the point of such questions. From his reaction, it's clear that he doesn't know who Sumu is at all, so his brother rushes to tell him that Sumu's sister is currently in the top 10 strongest disciples in the Sky Pavilion, so it's best not to mess with her. The boy also notices that Yang Kai is not worthy of comparison with this person. The crowd decides to obey the words of Sumu's henchmen. 10 minutes later, they arrive at the same place where Yang Kai's exam is held every month. The guy, so eager to take revenge on the hero for the destroyed plan, hurries to clarify why Ian has not yet appeared. His companion doesn't know the exact answer himself, only noticing the fact that he usually always showed up at this time to sweep the square. He suggests checking out the hero's hut. Sumu stresses that his opponent is only delaying the inevitable. He orders his companion to lead him. At this time, the disciples of the Heavenly Pavilion notice Brother Su's unusual movements. One of them asks a logical question about what Sumu is going to do, and the student standing next to him says that he doesn't know anything, but they should definitely look at it. After some time, Su gets to the hero's hut. The companion makes it clear that Yang Kai is left to his own devices. That is, he takes care of his own food, clothing, housing, and so on. The student suggests that this hut may have been built by him. Sumu accepts these words, but he doesn't care much about them. He steps forward, then loudly demands that Yang Kai stop hiding and come out of his house. Sumu's response is absolute silence. This makes him angry, so he declares that if Yang Kai doesn't show up right away, he will force him to come out. Again receiving no response, he orders his companion to open the door. The boy knocks the door to the hero's hut with his foot and looks at it from the threshold. Sumu is waiting for him outside. After a few moments, a friend reports that there is no one inside. He also assumes that Yang Kai was on guard all along, so he managed to escape in time. Sumu doesn't really believe in such things. The Sky Pavilion disciples who followed Sumu start to whisper among themselves. Odin notices the fact that he hasn't seen Brother Jan for several days. Another person thinks that the guy immediately packed up his belongings and ran away as soon as he found out who Sumu was. The latter, by the way, is dissatisfied with this development of events. He notices that even if his opponent has escaped, his hatred cannot be extinguished just like that. Sumu orders a torch to be brought so that he can burn down his house. This puts everyone present in a stupor, even Comrade that, doing all of Sumu's errands. He was taken aback by this statement, so he hurries to dissuade him from such actions, considering that this is too much. Sumu doesn't understand what he's afraid of, because you can just say that this straw just caught fire. After this explanation, Sumu demands that his friend hurry up. The latter, in turn, accepts such an order. When a torch is caught in Sumu's hand and he begins to slowly move towards the hut, intending to set it on fire, a hand falls on his shoulder, the owner of which clarifies what he is up to. Then a man's voice from behind rushes to find out why the guy should set fire to his house. Sumu clings to the words that this is the other party's home. After a moment, he realizes that Yongkai is standing behind him. He jumps back sharply, breaking the distance. Sumu immediately asks about how Yongkai dared to touch his shoulder. It is obvious that Sumu thinks that the other party knows very well who he is, so the hero should be afraid of him because of his status. The guy also finds out that the same hero from the village of Black Plum is standing in front of him. He elaborates with a mocking smile. Sumu is very angry about this, so he says that he didn't forget about that incident, so today Yongkai will be punished. Yongkai still decides to ask if the other person has something to do with him. Sumu, on the other hand, sees this as just another joke, so he demands that the hero stop being so naive. He also wants to see how his opponent will talk after the duel. Yongkai also asks if Sumu wants to challenge him. Sumu, on the other hand, looks at the opponent who is waiting for an answer to his question. He doesn't understand why Tom is so confident, as if he's already won. It doesn't escape Sumu's gaze that his opponent is badly battered. In his mind's eye, he notes that there isn't even a living spot on Yongkai's body. Sumu couldn't help but wonder what had happened to his opponent. Chapter 1-24. Sumu throws the torch on the ground, then steps on it with his boot to extinguish it. He then tells Yongkai not to tell him afterwards that he didn't warn him. The hero puts out his hand in a stop sign, asking for a moment. While Sumu is impressed by the other's indifference, Yongkai calmly enters his hut. His companion explains that Yongkai doesn't really care about his face. Sumu also notes that the other person said that the guy never gives up, so he demands that the other person call him so that he can beat the brat to death. The hero, meanwhile, throws a bag of things on the table in the hut, and then returns to the street, clarifying what to said to Sumu. The latter assures that Yongkai signed his own death sentence, and it will make him regret what he did. Sumu also states that the opponent has a chance to redeem himself, but to do so, he needs to kneel down and bow to him. Yongkai shakes his head, giving a negative answer to such a suggestion. Sumu is surprised by such a phenomenon, not understanding whether life is even dear to this person. The hero explains that he simply cannot lose his dignity. Sumu hastens to clarify what the other person means. Yongkai, on the other hand, is surprised that the other person didn't understand him because he seemed to be talking about obvious things. Sumu isn't interested in all this. He only suggests that you think carefully about your answer. The hero also asks a logical question about whether Sumu has connections in this place. In his mind's eye, he knows that he wouldn't have burned down his house without some cover from the sect. Yongkai knows from the other person's face that he has hit the bull's eye, so he asks if this person has a high status in the sect. Raising his nose high, Sumu confirms the other party's guesses, stating that he also has a sister and brother who are core students, so if he asks them, they will nail him with one finger. The hero approaches the guy, putting his hand on his shoulder and saying that this is truly frightening. Sumu throws the hero's hand away very roughly, noting that Tom should not touch it. The guy, seeing the absolute calmness on the face of the interlocutor, does not understand whether he thinks that he is playing games with him or not. This is the question he voices out loud. Yongkai, on the other hand, says that the only thing he can't understand is why Sumu is so confident in his support, because if he loses, it's unlikely that his sister or brother will go to avenge him, especially the elders. They'll just shake their heads. From all this, the hero has a question about why his interlocutor is still so confident. Yongkai reminds that if he wanted to, then not only the elders would know about the other person's action. Sumu also realizes that things are really not that simple, and Yongkai is talking about quite logical things. He decides to think about it. Then his friend decides to contribute to the conversation, stating that Yongkai has a very sharp tongue. This brings Sumu to his senses, and he regains his former mood. He claims that he has had enough of empty words, so if the interlocutor does not apologize to him now, then let him not blame him for the consequences. Yang Kai suggests that his brother hold a small duel. Sumu is surprised by this, because the other party is not allowed to challenge him by all rights. The hero recalls that there is a rule of the Sky Pavilion that says that students cannot challenge each other if the difference in their strength exceeds 3 stages. Sumu begins to taunt his companion, literally poking him in the face with the fact that he is only at the 3rd stage of body tempering. His companion also laughs at this. Then they are approached by another student who wants to fight the hero. He emphasizes that his strength is the most mediocre among the brothers here, but he is sure that Brother Yang will not be able to exchange blows in Nim because he has the 5th stage of body tempering. The hero mentally notes that 5 days ago he really was at the 3rd stage, but now everything is different. The opponent is a head taller. He introduces himself, demanding that Yang Kai remember his name, since it is he who will make him regret his actions today. His name is Zhao Hu. The hero claims that he will remember this name. Zhao Hu declares that he will allow Yang Kai to perform 3 strikes, since he is his younger brother. That way, if even one of them passes, then he will admit defeat. However, if not, then Yang Kai shouldn't blame him if he beats the guy up too much. Sumu, on the other hand, thinks that Zhao Hu is very good because he knows how to humiliate a person. At this time, a girl who once helped the hero appears on a tree branch. Yang Kai doesn't particularly like these conditions. He doesn't think it will be very good, so he will have an advantage over his brother. Zhao Hu says that the other person should not think about this, because he is his younger brother, so he just has to give him a chance to start first. The hero decides to concede in this argument. He says that if his brother insists so much, then let him not complain later if he overdoes it. Zhao Hu also demands to stop these conversations and get down to business. The student's eyes are filled with rage. The last words stung him deeply. In his mind's eye, he notices that someone like him, with his strength and build, won't be able to beat him in life, so he'll just smear him with one finger. A grin appears on the hero's face. He can sense the other person's attitude, so he asks Brother Zhao to get ready. The same one calls Yang Kai to action. Zhao Hu's pupils narrow in surprise. The hero is hit exactly in the chest. It is immediately clear that the disciple of the Heavenly Pavilion has experienced it perfectly for himself. Chapter 1:25. Yang Kai lands a direct hand punch to the body, then adds a kick to the face, sending his brother flying. Everyone falls into a stupor. Sumu can't believe his eyes. No one understands how Zhao Hu lost. Even a girl sitting in a tree is amazed at what is happening. From shock, she does not stand up very carefully on a tree branch, which immediately falls from it. She hits the ground painfully, still not believing what she's seeing. A representative of the fair sex is clearly aware of this oddity. She remembers that just a few days ago, the hero lost to a disciple in the 4th stage of body tempering, and today he so easily defeated a disciple in the 5th stage. She thinks about the fact that since the guy came to the Sky Pavilion, she noticed that he has developed his breathing process, as well as improved his body, all of which suggests that he is now at least at the 4th stage. Immediately, he remembers that just a few days ago, he was in the 3rd stage. Yang Kai also clenches his fist, noting that the control over the force of the blow is not very good yet. These words brought Sumu out of her stupor. He points a finger at the guy, telling him not to talk nonsense. The hero still clarifies whether Brother Su still thinks that he is not worthy of a duel with him. These words make Sumu angry, and his companion quickly whispers to him from behind, claiming that their informant was wrong, and that Yang Kai's strength is probably higher than the 3rd stage. Otherwise, there is no way he could have defeated Zhao Hu. Sumu agrees with his friend's words, mentally noting that Zhao Hu was too confident. He even wonders how strong Yang Kai really is. Sumu noticed that Yang Kai was very good at hiding his strength all this time. Sumu reports that he will let the hero live today, but only today. He commands a horde of ponytails that they are leaving. Yang Kai, on the other hand, thinks that it's nice to win, but something is missing. Yang Kai raises his head to our luminary, realizing that because of this Sumu, he missed his morning practice. He takes off his outer clothing, deciding to take a dip in a small pond nearby. Meanwhile, the girl is looking for a hero. In his mind's eye, he notes that it originally wanted to ask him what stage he's at right now, but the guy has disappeared somewhere. Here, having gone around the next turn, the fair sex is flooded with red paint from embarrassment. She sees Yang Kai completely naked about to take a dip in the pond. A girl looks out from behind a tree, cursing the guy and calling him shameless because it is not appropriate to wash naked in broad daylight. The hero also washes off the dirt and dried blood, thinking that he should hurry. After finishing the water treatment, Yang Kai puts on the clothes of a disciple of the Heavenly Pavilion. He goes to the house to get a broom and get to work. Privately, he stresses that it's been a few days since the last cleaning, so it's time for him to get back to his duty. Although the guy believes that there are still many things that need to be done, but he believes that you should always do what you have taken on.